Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're tearing into Dr. Kem's masterclass on High Performance Liquid Chromatography, or as we all know it, HPLC. If you've ever wondered how analytical chemists take a crazy, complex mixture and flawlessly separate it into its individual components, well, this is the ultimate technological solution. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's look at the agenda. We'll be hitting the principles of liquid chromatography, then mobilizing and pumping solvents. Next up, injection and column separation, followed by detectors and data systems, and finally, method development and applications. Section 1, Principles of Liquid Chromatography, the big picture. So HPLC stands for High Performance Liquid Chromatography. And honestly, the key word here is performance. Older, traditional chromatography relied on gravity to just sort of slowly pull liquid through a column. But modern HPLC's real superpower? High-pressure pumps. By cranking up the pressure, scientists can pack those chromatography columns with much smaller, highly porous particles. This dramatically enhances the separation efficiency and, thankfully, cuts down analysis time significantly. Ultimately, this entire instrument is built to do three things to a mixture: separate it, identify its parts, and quantify exactly how much of each part is actually in there. So why do so many industries rely so heavily on this exact instrument? Well, Dr. Hem highlights a few major advantages. You can run simultaneous analysis of multiple components with just incredibly high resolution and sensitivity. Plus, you only need a tiny sample size to get going, and the repeatability is fantastic. Because it operates under moderate analysis conditions, you're not going to destroy your sample in the process, which means it's super easy to fractionate and purify later on. It is absolutely a laboratory workhorse. And seeing this core principle in action is just fascinating. When a single, dark mix sample is loaded at the top of the column and solvent is added over time, you can actually watch the mixture separate into distinct red, green, and blue color bands. It does this because each chemical component has a totally unique affinity for the stationary phase. That's the material packed inside the column. Some components stick to it like glue, while others just wash right on through. Section 2. Mobilizing and pumping solvents, driving the system. Okay, so this step-by-step pathway is exactly how the liquid travels through the instrumentation. It all starts in the solvent reservoir, which holds our chemical solution, the mobile phase. From there, it flows right into a degasser, gets pressurized by the pumps, and then the actual sample is introduced at the injector. Finally, it's pushed into the column for separation and flows through a detector to be measured. That is our roadmap. Now, you might be tempted to overlook step 2 here, the degasser, but you absolutely shouldn't. It is completely crucial. Before the liquid even hits the pump, this component removes dissolved gases from the mobile phase. Why? Well, think about it. A tiny, unexpected bubble forming inside a high-pressure system like this. It could cause inconsistent flow, completely ruin your stable baseline, and just destroy the accuracy of your results. The whole journey would be ruined before it even really started. Right, so after the degasser, we hit the pump. And understanding the difference between the two main types of HPLC pumps is vital. So the crucial point is that an isocratic pump is your basic, lowest cost option. It delivers a constant mobile phase composition, meaning you have to premix the solvents beforehand. A gradient pump, on the other hand, is way more advanced. It dynamically mixes different solvents on the fly, delivering a variable composition over time. This gives you incredibly complex control over the liquid's journey, which you absolutely need when separating really stubborn mixtures. Section 3. Injection and column separation, the heart of the machine. Enter the injector. The job of the injection valve is to introduce your tiny sample into that raging river of high-pressure mobile phase. And it has to do this with absolute precision and almost zero disruption to the flow, usually relying on mechanisms like variable loops, fixed loops, or syringes. It's normally a highly reliable piece of hardware. Though if a scientist is seeing irreproducible injections, mechanical issues right here, like a worn seal or a plugged piece of capillary tubing, are almost always the primary culprits. Once injected, this sample hits the column, and Dr. Kem uses a really perfect analogy for this part. Think of the inside of the column as a microscopic obstacle course packed with stationary beads. As the liquid pushes the sample through, different molecules take different amounts of time to cross the finish line based on how much they stick to the obstacles. A compound with greater affinity for the beads, it'll travel slower. A compound with less affinity will just race right through. That difference in speed is literally what creates the separation. Section 4. Detectors and data systems. Seeing the unseen. Which naturally leads us to a pretty fascinating question. How exactly do we measure what we can't see?
Even after separation, the liquid coming out of the column usually just looks like clear water. We need a way for the machine to translate that clear, separated liquid into actual, usable, quantitative data.
Now, what's really interesting here is how a refractive index, or RI detector, solves this problem. As light passes through the flow cell, the RI detector measures the ability of a molecule to deflect that light compared to a static reference cell. The amount of light deflection is directly proportional to the concentration of the compound. It's considered a universal detector because, well, almost everything deflects light differently than the solvent. The trade-off, though, it isn't highly sensitive. Contrast that with a fluorescence detector. Instead of just looking at deflected light, this system fires a xenon flash lamp at the sample and then measures the light the sample emits or fluoresces in response. Now, fluorescence detectors only sense substances that actively fluoresce. So while that means it's not a universal detector, it grants the setup extreme sensitivity and selectivity. That makes it the absolute go-to choice when you need to identify trace-level impurities hiding in a highly complex matrix. Okay, so all of those optical signals from the detectors are instantly fed into the data system, which is essentially the brain of the machine. The computer takes that raw electronic signal and translates it into a beautiful, readable visual graph called a chromatogram. By looking at the peaks on this graph during chromatogram interpretation, the system calculates the exact retention time, meaning exactly how long a component took to pass through the column, and the specific quantity of those separated components.
Section 5, Method Development and Applications, the real-world impact.
As you can imagine, you can't just pour a sample into an HPLC and hope for the best. Chemists have to carefully develop their methods. This method development depends heavily on the molecular chemical structure of the drug or sample. Scientists have to factor in solubility, polarity, pH, and pKa values just to choose the right columns and solvents. Furthermore, to ensure the results can actually be trusted, especially in medicine, these methods must be stringently validated against strict ICH guidelines. We're talking ensuring total accuracy, specificity, linearity, and proving the exact limits of detection and quantification. And here is why all of this painstaking validation actually matters to you and me. HPLC isn't just some niche laboratory tool. It's practically the backbone of global safety and research. It's relied upon for pharmaceutical drug analysis to guarantee the pills we take are exactly what they claim to be. It's used in environmental testing to hunt down trace pollutants in our water. Plus, it's absolutely essential in food science, quality control, and cutting-edge research and development.
Which brings us to a final thought. If an instrument like HPLC allows us to flawlessly separate and quantify the invisible building blocks of our world, you kind of have to wonder, what undiscovered compounds are currently hiding in plain sight, just waiting for the right solvent and the right column to reveal them? Thank you for joining me for this explainer on Dr. Chem's HPLC lecture. Keep examining the evidence, and I'll catch you next time as we decode another complex topic.